Coming up today, Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan says the South Korean economy is on the up and up thanks to progress on labour reforms and warmer inter-Korean ties. Korea's main opposition party says it's confident in leader Moon Jae-in's ability to take the party forward. The backing should end internal factional strife within the party. Plus, Greece's left-wing Syriza party wins Sunday's elections and vows to form a coalition government. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello and welcome. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, September 21st here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome and you're tuned in to our early morning edition of Arirang News. And we start with Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan's renewed sense of confidence about the Korean economy following a recent upgrade to the country's sovereign credit rating. Fueling his optimism, a recent push to reform the labour market and efforts to improve inter-Korean relations. Kwon So-ah reports.
The outlook for the Korean economy has gotten a lift following some positive remarks by the finance minister on the country's recently upgraded credit rating. According to Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan, there aren't many countries that have had their sovereign credit ratings raised amid the sluggish global economic growth. But with Korea's rating upped a notch from A+ to AA- by Standard & Poor's, in addition to similar upgrades by the three biggest international credit ratings agencies, including Moody's and Fitch, Korea now has a higher rating than China and Japan. Choi has met with S&P 4 times since his inauguration a year ago to explain Korea's economic situation. The minister said S&P's positive ratings decision had a lot to do with the substantial progress Korea has made in reforming its rigid labor market after representatives from the government, labor, and management reached agreement on key labor reform issues last week. On Sunday, representatives from the presidential office, the government, and the ruling Saenuri party agreed to set clear standards for two key points: changing employment rules and a company's ability to dismiss underperforming employees, so that related bills can be passed by the end of the year. With S&P traditionally giving a great deal of consideration to South Korea's relations with North Korea, a recent high-level meeting between the two Koreas is seen as having influenced the ratings upgrade too, as the meeting ended with Seoul and Pyongyang working together to organize a set of reunions for war-separated families next month. The finance minister also said that although he doesn't want to create complacency, he feels the public shouldn't be concerned about the economy, but more confident. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
President Park GeunHye has given all military personnel a special two-day leave just in time for Chuseok, or the Korean harvest holiday. The presidential office of Cheongwadae said on Sunday that the vacation is a reward for the military's prompt defensive actions after a landmine blast orchestrated by North Korea at the DMZ last month. President Park also plans to send out letters of encouragement and special treats to the servicemen. All able-bodied men in South Korea are required to serve in the military for around 2 years. Lawmakers of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy have reaffirmed their confidence in the leadership of Chairman Moon Jae-in in the latest effort to end the long-lasting factional strife within the party. After a joint meeting of the party's executive committee and other members on Sunday, NPAD lawmaker Park Byung-seok said those in attendance reconfirmed their support for Moon, adding that there's no need to hold a vote of confidence on his leadership. Park also apologised for the internal feud that had escalated after the Party Reform Committee proposed new reforms that drew strong opposition from non-mainstream members of the party. Moon is expected to announce on Monday whether a planned vote of confidence will go ahead or not. South Korea's unification minister has identified what the two Koreas need to work on in order for reunification. Speaking at a seminar in Seoul on Sunday, Hong Yong-pyo said for reunification to become a reality, South Korea needs to focus on two major things: Seoul must always challenge North Korea for any provocations in order to prevent recurrences, and the two Koreas need to engage in regular dialogue. The minister also addressed other issues regarding North Korea, including the North's human rights record, which is dire, and ways the South can aid defectors from the North. Now, North Korea is continuing to threaten the international community with a nuclear test and even a ballistic missile launch, but the United States says it's open to holding denuclearization talks with the regime in any location, and that includes Pyongyang. Kim Hyun-bin tells us more.
The U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy says that Washington is genuinely interested in holding talks with Pyongyang to restart the long-stalled six-party denuclearization talks, and is willing to meet in any location, including Pyongyang. Sung Kim told Seoul-based Yonhap news agency in an exclusive interview Saturday that the North should come back to the negotiating table and honor its previous commitment to give up its nuclear program. He added that the main focus of talks with Pyongyang will be to hear that they are committed to denuclearization, which in turn will go a long way toward restarting the six-party talks. It is highly unusual for a U.S. official to express a willingness to hold talks in Pyongyang. The move is part of recent efforts by the six-party members to re-engage with the regime and prevent it from launching further provocations. The six-party talks, which involve the two Koreas, the U.S., China, Russia, and Japan, have been stalled since 2008. North Korea wants an unconditional resumption of the negotiations, while the U.S. wants Pyongyang to first show it is sincere about denuclearization before formal negotiations can resume. The U.S. says, however, it is open to exploratory talks with Pyongyang without any preconditions, but the communist regime has thus far shown no interest in talks. Kim's comments come after North Korea hinted earlier this week that it could launch a long-range rocket or conduct a nuclear test, which would be in violation of the UN Security Council resolutions against it. Washington and Seoul both warned Pyongyang that it will slap stronger sanctions on the communist regime if it forges ahead with the plan. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, this should be the year to start a new era for Korea-Japan ties based on a correct understanding of their shared history. This is according to Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se, who was speaking at an annual cultural event with Japan in Seoul on Sunday. In an apparent effort to mend ties, the minister made no comments about Japan's failure to acknowledge its wartime past. Instead, Minister Yoon said relations between the two nations are still being affected by the bitter legacy of their modern history, and expressed hope the two countries can move in a new direction together. Also at the venue, Yoon met briefly with Issue Sugawara, Japan's senior vice minister for the economy. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the normalization of Korea-Japan relations, and a similar series of events is also being held in Japan. Now, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is facing a strong backlash from the public following Saturday's enactment of new security legislation that allows the country's self-defense forces to engage in military operations overseas. Tokyo-based public broadcaster NHK reported that a group of some 170 scholars from more than 140 universities nationwide held a news conference on Sunday. And in a statement, the group said lawmakers should act immediately to scrap the new security bills. They called the move an outrageous act of abandoning Japan's pacifist policy. The public approval rating for Abe's cabinet fell to 38.9% right after the enactment of the legislation. The poll conducted by Kyodo News Agency showed Abe's approval rating dropped by 4.3 percentage points from 42.2% in mid-August, with the majority of respondents opposing those bills. Now, Greeks have voted the leftist Syriza party back into power. Official projection of the final results shows Syriza winning Sunday's election with 35.5% of the vote. The leader of the Conservative New Democracy Party has already conceded defeat. He says a government should be formed without delay. A spokesperson for Syriza has told Reuters that the party will implement the bailout agreement it reached previously with EU leaders, but will continue tough negotiations on that subject. Now, throngs of people flooded the streets of Havana on Sunday to greet Pope Francis. Taking a subtle jab at Cuba's communist system during his Sunday Mass, the Pope called on Cubans to serve one another and not an ideology. Following the Mass, Francis met with the country's iconic former leader Fidel Castro. Vatican officials say the 40-minute meeting at Castro's residence was informal and familiar with a discussion about the big issues facing humanity. Pope Francis heads to the United States this week for a high-profile visit. He will travel to Washington, New York and Philadelphia over the course of his 5.5-day trip. Now, innovation seems to be the key to success for many businesses these days, and this means companies must not only come up with new ideas, but they must also have a good patent strategy to protect their information assets. For a look at a local firm that specializes in patent services, our Moon Jae-in reports.
Patent information contains the legal and technical data for new inventions. It tells you exactly how an invention works and who has the right to make, use, or sell the item that's protected by a patent. According to FuturePlay, a domestic venture for startups, it's also a powerful tool that could help businesses stay ahead of the competition. By providing custom-made patent strategy for different tech startups, FuturePlay has successfully incubated more than 20 startups in less than 2 years.
The asset of information is universal, so patents are effective in countries all over the world. Therefore, utilizing patent information can quickly foster the commercial value of a startup while also protecting its intellectual property.
Even the government is advising companies to use patent data to build strategy. Korea's state-run patent office says local firms should thoroughly research international patent laws before taking their business globally.
It's extremely difficult to survive in the global market without a strong patent strategy, so it's important to stay aware of the major market trends and build momentum accordingly.
Experts say securing strong patents and applying them for strategic purposes are the key factors to success in today's information age. Moon Jae-in, Arirang News.
Now, some good news because Korea's tourism ministry is getting back on its feet, with the number of Chinese visitors to South Korea returning to levels seen before the MERS outbreak that started in May and affected the country pretty badly for a couple of months. Department stores, duty-free shops and related businesses are planning promotional events and special offers exclusively for Chinese tourists during 2 major Chinese holidays coming up later this month and another one in early October. These include prize draws and discounts of up to 30%. The Korea Tourism Organization's Shanghai office said the recovery of Chinese visitor arrivals was faster than expected. More than 303,000 came in the first 14 days of this month alone, and that's up nearly 15% from the same period last year. Now, technological advancements are everywhere these days, but the ability to compose highly sophisticated music is still solely the domain of humans. Or is it, really? A new computer program is actually challenging that notion. For more on what all the noise is about, Park GeunHye reports.
This music, reminiscent of a classical piece, was composed by a computer program. The computer program Kalida was built by Danya Quick, a lecturer in Yale University's Computer Science Department. It references a library of different musical genres and styles as a basis for writing new music, just as humans and music generation programs have done in the past. But Kalida also has the capability to compose music that deviates from the rules of classical and jazz styles, as well as combine styles from different genres to create new music.
Taking a musical score and performing basic harmonic analysis on it. So Kalida does need a little bit of help to get going with the learning, but once she has an analyzed score, she then looks for high-level patterns in it.
The new program is capable of producing sophisticated compositions. Last year, more than 200 listeners participated in 2 online studies to see whether they could tell the difference between music written by a human and music written by Kalida. Some were written by Johann Sebastian Bach, and just over half of the participants confused Kalida for a human composer. Quick doesn't envision Kalida as a replacement for humans, but she thinks computer music generators can serve as a fresh source of ideas. Park GeunHye, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broome. Thank you as always for watching, and we'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Goodbye.